So your draft's in the books and you're not happy with the tight end you ended up with. Maybe you're a bit worried about Kyle Pitts' injury and worried about who's going to start for you in week 1. Well, worry no longer, because I've got 4 tight ends that you can grab off waivers who'll be ready to stream in week 1. Welcome to Fantasy Pancake. Tight end is notoriously one of the hardest positions to nail in your draft, and this year was absolutely no different, with a slew of potential elite options available early on, but some not so exciting options later down the board. It's possible that you got hammered out of tight end by being the last person to pick an elite option, and now you're not 100% which way you're going to go in week 1. If you ended up with someone like Cade Otton, Dallas Goedert, or even Pat Freiermuth, you might not be feeling great about your week 1 starter, but now is the time as we enter redraft season to start thinking about streaming candidates. Now, tight end streaming used to be the number one method at the tight end position. Back a few years ago, it was essentially get Travis Kelce, hit on the breakout candidate, or stream matchups every single week. And so to start off this season, yes, that's right, football season is finally here. We made it. It's nearly here. To start off, I'm going to give you 4 candidates that you can pick up on waivers in nearly every single league who will be good options potentially for you to start in League 1. So, the first player that I have in mind is a tight end who changed teams this last offseason, but with no established starter ahead of him, he's on the depth chart as the number 1 option for his team, and that's a team with a great offense, and yes, that's right, I've spoken about them in every single video so far. You can tell why if you just have a look at the background around me, but it's the Los Angeles Rams, and Colby Parkinson was the new tight end addition of the LA Rams this offseason. So, Colby Parkinson hasn't done a huge amount in his career so far, playing for 4 years at the Seattle Seahawks, never finishing above tight end 30. But the Rams clearly like what they saw, giving him a 3-year deal that puts him in the top 12 of tight ends in terms of value per year. Now, this felt a slightly strange deal until you notice that the Rams are trying to build absolute monsters up front, with the signings of Jonah Jackson, the re-signing of Kevin Dotson, and still Steve Avila. The Rams' interior offensive line weigh over 330 pounds each, so the Rams are trying to go for more of a power blocking scheme, and Colby Parkinson helps with this a huge amount, being an absolute monster in the blocking game, as you'll have seen in his time in Seattle. But obviously, blocking doesn't earn fancy points, so why am I recommending Colby Parkinson as a potential candidate to smash in week 1? Now, this all comes down to the fact that Sean McVay has always liked to feature one tight end. In the past few seasons, this has been Tyler Higbee. But Higbee, as you'll know, is starting the season on PUP, so he's going to miss the first few weeks. The Rams were potentially leaning to a tight end by committee, with Davis Allen and Hunter Long, who they got back in the Jalen Ramsey deal a couple of years ago. But Sean McVay has always liked to just have one tight end play the majority of his snaps. And I think that Colby Parkinson is going to be the tight end that they do this with. I don't think they'd have paid him the money if they didn't see this from him. And this was echoed when he was listed as the tight end 1 on the depth chart coming out of the back of the preseason. The matchup specifically is an absolute smash. The Rams play the Lions on Sunday Night Football, which, as a UK fan, I'm gutted about because I'm going to have to stay up until about 5 o'clock in the morning to watch. But this has the highest over-under of any matchup of week 1, currently slated by Vegas at 50.5. This means there's going to be a lot of offense available and a lot of points scored by a lot of different players. The Rams' receiving core is slightly shaken up. Puka Nacua we know is questionable going into week 1. Cooper Kupp, we're never sure about his health, but we know that they love to pass towards the red zone. We saw that a lot last season. Colby Parkinson is the only Rams player to have real size on his side, so should be a huge weapon in the red zone, which we've seen from Tyler Higbee in that league-winning stretch in 2021, but also across the past couple of seasons with Matthew Stafford as well. So I think there's a very real chance that Colby Parkinson has the potential to score a touchdown in week 1. And as we know at the tight end position, that is all you need to have a streamable option to be successful at the tight end position. So Colby Parkinson, to me, because of the matchup, because of the scheme, and because of the price that his new team has paid for him, is guaranteed to do much better than you think in week 1 and is currently available on waivers in the majority of leagues. This next tight end is someone who seems to have been left for dead compared to the other receiving talent in his offense, but they have a new offensive coordinator in town and they're playing the team that conceded the most points to the tight end position in 2023. It's Noah Fant of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Noah Fant has had nowhere near as exciting a career as we hoped for when he was drafted in the first round just 4 years ago. But since being traded to the Seattle Seahawks, Noah Fant has found himself at the top of the depth chart. Now, last season, he did have Will Dissly and Colby Parkinson in the depth chart with him. But this year, it's Noah Fant clearly ahead with no other tight end even close to him. Now, yes, there are a fair amount of other receivers around him, with Jackson Smith-Njigba, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. But the crucial thing here is Tyler Lockett is aging out, and Noah Fant provides a different thing to this offense to the rest of those wide receivers. Noah Fant being a great yards after the catch threat as a fantastic athlete working the middle of the field. Now, the Seahawks play the Denver Broncos this next game in week 1. And as I said, they conceded the most points to tight ends last season. The matchup isn't quite as good as the Lions versus the Rams in terms of over-under, but the Seahawks have the 11th highest suggested points total according to sportsbooks across Vegas for this game. So it's clear that there's a fair amount of touchdown upside here, and as Noah Fant, alongside DK Metcalf, is the only receiver with any size, we think there's a good chance that he can get into the end zone in week 1, and he's available in a significant amount of leagues. If you've got this far into the video, I would be absolutely delighted if you would subscribe to the channel. We are so close to 100 followers and it's been just over a week. I really want to hit that mark before week 1 starts on Sunday with the first red zone of the season. So if you could be one of those last 10, I'd be absolutely delighted. But back to the tight ends. The third tight end on this list is available in over half of the leagues on Sleeper, even though beat reporters think he's the starting tight end on an offense that we all think is going to be pretty good, with multiple receiving options being drafted in the top 6 rounds and a quarterback going above QB 12. The tight end that I'm thinking about is Gerald Everett of the Chicago Bears. Now, if you haven't been paying a huge amount of attention, you might think that I misspoke and Cole Kmet is the starter for the Chicago Bears. But if you watch preseason, Gerald Everett was the starter in 3 wide receiver sets. Now, Everett isn't as good of a blocker as Cole Kmet, so when they're running 2 tight end sets or they're looking for a run blocking package, Kmet is more likely to be on the field. But Gerald Everett is a good receiver, has shown a lot of chemistry with Caleb Williams across the preseason, and seems to be slated for that starting role, which seems to me as a fair amount of upside for a team that we think is going to be pretty good offensively, but we're not entirely sure how it's going to shake out. Obviously, 3 of the other crucial pieces are new here. Keenan Allen, having been traded from the Los Angeles Chargers, Rome Odunze, having been drafted at 9 overall, and crucially, Caleb Williams, having been drafted 1st overall. They also have a new offensive coordinator, so it's really difficult to know exactly how the Bears offense is going to shake out. We're pretty happy with DJ Moore. People have been worried about Keenan Allen ever since it was rumoured that he's been reviewing pizzas online. And Rome Odunze seems to have slipped in ADP as people are uncertain how much volume he's going to have in year 1. So to me, taking a punt on their starting tight end, who's less than 50% rostered on Sleeper, feels a good bet for an offense that should start off pretty hot against the Titans in week 1. Final tight end in this list is a massive, massive punt. But if there's absolutely nothing available in your leagues, this player could be worth a bet for a touchdown in week 1. He's playing for a team whose current tight end starter is going to miss at least the first half of the season, And with a new quarterback at the helm, it may be that the ball has to come out quickly, especially because the team that they're playing has a pretty good pass rush, meaning that that short ball over the middle of the field to the tight end may be something they need to do quite a lot. The tight end that I'm talking about is Johnny Mundt of the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if your first reaction is, who's Johnny Mundt? And I completely get it. If he hadn't played for the Rams before he went to the Vikings, I wouldn't know who he was either. But even at the Rams, he was basically just a fullback. But in Minnesota, with TJ Hockenson on IR to start the season, Johnny Mundt is currently atop the depth chart. Now, there's not a huge amount at wide receiver 3. Obviously, they have Justin Jefferson, and it seems like Jordan Addison is going to survive a suspension for the awful things that he's done this offseason in terms of drinks driving. So, they need a third option, and what they need is someone who can provide size and a reliable weapon over the middle of the field. Now, as I mentioned when I spoke about Colby Parkinson, Sean McVay offenses like to feature one tight end, and Kevin O'Connell comes from the Sean McVay tree. So there's a chance that if Johnny Mundt is the presumed starter as the tight end 1, he could be the featured tight end and find himself as the third option in this matchup. Now, I wouldn't bet everything on Johnny Mundt coming off, but if it does work as a punt play, if he gets a touchdown or even just 6 to 8 PPR points, I expect people to be coming back to this video and everyone to follow afterwards, because I'm not even exactly sure on this one. So those are my 4 tight ends that you can stream in week 1 who may be worth a fair amount of touchdown upside, and I think can help you not win your week, but not lose it by a straight up 0 at the tight end position. If Kyle Pitts ends up missing week 1 and you're the Kyle Pitts owner, it might be worth looking to one of these players to pick them up just to get ahead of yourself, just in case. The tight ends were Colby Parkinson, Noah Fant, Gerald Everett, and Johnny Mundt of the Minnesota Vikings. Thank you so much for watching. Please give the video a like and subscribe, and I will see you in football season.